Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bree, and today's video is going to be all the books I read in the month of September. It was a pretty good reading month for me, given that I just started my new job. So I read a total of 9 books, which I thought was actually really good. I did not expect to read that much, so I'm really happy with that. And I read a lot of good books too, because they were a lot of my favorite series and things like that. So I'm excited to get into it because it was a good reading month. And it also was like the start of kind of spooky season for me, at least. Although I read a lot of spooky books all year, I feel like this was a good transition where I read mainly mystery and some fantasy that had some like more spookier elements to it, and I really just had a great time. So to start with my stats, I read a total of 9 books, and my pages read were 2,808 pages, and I listened to 9.85 hours because I've been going back and forth with my job now. I have a commute, so I've been listening to audiobooks, which has been the perfect way to. Average rating was a 4.6, so that was really high. So the genres I read 3 fantasy, 1 graphic novel, 4 mysteries, and 1 nonfiction. And I read 8 of them physical and 1 was fully audiobook. And 7 out of those were adult, 1 was YA, and 1 was middle grade. Thank you. I know, I have chapstick on. Can I finish my video? So I had 5 5-stars, 1 4.5 star, 2 4 stars, and 1 3.5 star. So overall, it was a really good reading month. I didn't read less than 3.5 stars, which was great. So first I'm going to talk about one of my favorite series because I read 2 books in the series this month. And the first is Murder at Queen's Landing by Andrea Penrose. This is the fourth one. And then I read the 5th one, which was Murder at the Royal Botanic Gardens. And I also finished the 6th one, but that'll be my October wrap-up. So, sorry, Pippi is like demanding attention right now. So I'm going to try to do this with him, but he may have to be shut out. But if I shut him out, he starts wailing, so. Okay, that's fine. We can cuddle, but can you sit down? So this one is about Rexford and Sloane on another mystery, but it involves people from a previous book, and they've gone missing mysteriously, and someone has turned up dead, which clues lead to them, and so they're going to figure out what happened because Rexford's like best friend Sheffield believes that they're innocent, and so they are going to try to figure out what actually is going down. And this involves math and using math for an invention kind of a thing, and I really enjoyed that part. I think that it was fun, and Raven, one of the boys, he is really into math and really good at math, so it brought him into the story a little bit more as well. And so I gave this 4.5 stars. I feel like it was good. The ending was good. I just don't know why it wasn't a full 5-star for me. But I just always enjoy being back with these characters in this world, and I feel like this one, the ending had a very like personal ending, which was great. So 4.5 stars from me. And then the 5th book, Murder at the Royal Botanic Gardens. It was really good. I believe I gave this one 4 stars. I liked this one. I thought the personal lives were much more of a forefront to this story. And this is following a botany case where a botanist from the US is there for like this big retreat kind of a thing, and he is killed. And while it doesn't seem like murder at first, his friend believes that it was murder, and so then they end up taking on the case. And while I liked the majority of this mystery, and I liked the botany element of it, the ending just, I didn't like the way it was kind of wrapped up. Like, there was just certain element of it I didn't like, and if you want more information, you can go watch my reading vlog of this. But overall, I just had a fun time with it. Like every Rexford and Sloane book, I just feel like each book, I just fall more and more in love with all the characters, and I just love getting back to these mysteries. They feel like homey now to me. And so I always just feel like I rate them high because I just have like a nostalgia with it now. So I gave this one 4 stars, which was less than the last one because I just, again, that ending wasn't really as much for me, but I am glad I read it, and I'm glad that I have now finished the series, and I'm all caught up. So the next thing I read was also a continuation of series, and you can see my reading vlog where I read this, and that is Finley, Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. And honestly, I cannot believe I took so long to read this one because I loved Finley Donovan is Killing It, and I just kept putting this one off. I don't know why. I think this would have been perfect for summer, but I read it in September, and still 5 stars for me. I absolutely loved it. I love Finley and Vero and like just the craziness that they get up to. I feel like it's a bit unbelievable, but also in like the best way. I just have such a fun time. I was already laughing out loud when I started this book, like within the first, 20 pages. There's like a little twist at the end that I thought was so funny, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the 3rd one to come out. I am going to be reading it right when it comes out. That's my goal. So in January, which isn't too far off. I'm just like so happy to have found this series because it is one that brings me a lot of joy, and I tend to read a little bit darker things with murder mysteries, and this just brings a lot of light into my reading. And so even though it is murder mystery-esque, I just think it's such a fun mystery, and I'm looking for more fun mysteries to read in the future. I read where I was using the book covers previous to pick the next up book, that video if you want to check it out. But I read This Poisoned Heart by Kaylin Bayron. But this is following the main character, Bree, and she lives in New York with her moms, and she has been adopted, and she's always known she was adopted. She gets this lady who comes to their house and says that her mother's sister has passed and left in her will their whole estate in upstate New York to her. And she has this power that her and her moms don't really understand. She can like make plants grow and things like that, and they're worried for her in the city. So they decide to go to this house and just like see what it's about, maybe sell it, because they just also are trying to make ends meet with their business and their house in New York. She just starts getting answers to a lot of questions that she has, and I thought it was a fun YA mystery. I really enjoyed the magic element of this. I feel like it was so interesting to see how her like plant magic works, because I think that's a kind of magic element I enjoy in a fantasy. And I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. It's a mystery the whole time, and the lead up to the mystery I felt like was just really prolonged and then kind of like rushed at the end. But I do think I'll pick up the next one because I'm really interested to see where the story goes, because it weaves in elements of mythology as well, and I'm really interested in that. And so I think that the second book might just be more of a hit, because from where this one leaves off, I think it's going to just start with much more action, and I think that's kind of what I was missing in this. But I did enjoy it, and I think it could be a good YA mystery out there for some readers. I just think I am a little bit older for the audience as well. So 3.5 from me. Then I read a middle grade, Garlic and the Witch. This is the second in the Garlic and the Vampire series, and it is a little graphic novel about Garlic, who is a garlic. And in this one, she is helping the witch Agnes, and there's some changes that Garlic is going through, and that's all I'll say. It was really a fun, sweet story, just like the first one. I loved it just as much, and I don't know if there'll be more, but I just think it's such a great graphic novel to like make you smile. It's all about like believing in yourself, because Garlic is very anxious and she worries about a lot of stuff and doubts her own abilities, and it's about like not doubting your abilities and other people believing in you even when you don't. And it's a really sweet story. I'd highly recommend it if you like graphic novels, or if you want a middle grade to read with your young one, or just in general. I have such a good time with this. It's just so sweet and wholesome. I would highly recommend it. So 5 stars from me. Then I read A Conspiracy in Belgravia by Sherry Thomas, which is the second in the Lady Sherlock series. And I read the first one like 2 years ago, and I put this one off for forever for no other reason than I just kept getting to other books over it. And I'm really happy I read it because it was 4 stars for me. I really like the series. I think it's about a 4-star series for me. It's following Lady Sherlock, and basically she leaves her home because of an indiscretion, and she has to make her way in the world, and she finds a way to become Sherlock Holmes, where people think it's a man who's investigating and that he's just very ill and can't be seen. And so she helps her brother, and it's actually her who is solving these mysteries, and she is just very smart and logical and things like that. And so I really like this series because it takes a lot from the original Sherlock stories, but reimagines it as her as a woman and just makes it kind of its own story, which I really love. This one is involving Lord Ingram's wife, which is Charlotte's like really good childhood friend, and she has a secret that she doesn't want anyone to know, and she needs Sherlock Holmes's help. And Charlotte is torn between telling Lord Ingram what she knows and like her loyalties to him and helping the wife. It just is a mystery that goes on from there. And I thought that it was really a good mystery with lots of twists and turns. It brought in some more characters that are from the classic Sherlock Holmes, but I just feel like I haven't connected to the characters in like the same way I have like with the Rexford and Sloane series. So for me, it was a 4-star, but I'm really happy I've continued in the series, and I definitely will continue this series. And I think if you're looking for a good like starter historical mystery, this might be a good one to start with. So then I read one book completely on audio, and that was Unmasking Autism by Devin Price. And this is a nonfiction book written by an autistic author, and it's his story of finding out he's autistic and like unmasking and things. And then it's also got a lot from a lot of different autistic perspectives from a lot of different backgrounds, and it just is a book kind of about what autism really is and what it looks like and what masking is and the dangers of masking and how to start to unmask and become your true self. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I don't want to get too much into it just because it is nonfiction, and I just don't really review a lot of nonfiction on this channel, but I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars and would recommend. Then I read In an Absent Dream by Shauna Maguire. I believe this is the 4th one in the series, and I have been making my way through this series this year, and I'm so happy I have because it's my new favorite series. And this one is following Lundy, and Lundy is in the first book and is one of the, I don't know what her role was, I forget. It's like either teacher or kind of like helps run the school. And I always found her to be a really interesting character when I first read the book. And so I really liked getting her story. And I really connected to this one more than the other ones, I think, because I just really connected to Lundy as a character. She finds her door, and she's just kind of like a quiet, perfect child in a lot of ways, but is kind of looking for something more. And she ends up finding this door, and it's to a goblin market. And her door is interesting because she can come back and forth many times until her 18th birthday. And I just thought that this story was so well done, and the ending was really, really well done. And it's interesting because you know Lundy's story in a way from the first one, but now you're getting into it more. And I love how Shauna Maguire does that with all the stories. It's like you meet the character first and then you get their backstory. So it's like you kind of know where they end up, but seeing the journey there is just really cool to see, and I really think it makes the characters come to life so much more. So I gave this one 5 stars. I think this one, I say this about everyone, but I think this one's my favorite. It's like every one I read, it becomes my new favorite. So that's just like testament to the series. It's just such a good series, and I would highly recommend it if you haven't picked it up and you like fantasy, portal fantasy, or just cozy stories in general. Even though they have some darker themes, there's something about it that is so cozy to me, and they're not very long. So I'd highly recommend this one. Then finally, my last book, which is also part of my favorite series, and is in that series video, is European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman by Theodore Goss. Again, 5 stars. I think this one's my favorite in the series so far. I gave both 5 stars, but I think this one is a bit of a higher 5-star, if there is such a thing. You got to get to know the characters a lot more. There's a lot more travel in this. In this, there's a lot of moving parts because the ending of the first one just jumps you right into the third one, or into the second one. I think that it had so much action that I really never felt bored, and there were so many new characters brought in, so many people to interact with and to add to the whole like underlying mystery. If you maybe were like a little hesitant on the first one, the second one I just think adds so much more because there is so much more movement. And I love the interactions, again, like the interjections that they give. I still think it adds so much to the story, and I just love these characters so much. Like I connect with these characters so much, and their found family elements that I just absolutely love. And I love who they brought in and like how they did it. It was so fun. I would highly recommend. I already want to read the third one, and then I already want to do a reread because I just feel like there's so much in this that I could reread these and love them even more. Like they just already feel nostalgic to me. So these are all the books I read in September. And I just had a really good reading month. I read a lot of historical fiction and just mysteries in general, but I feel like it was my kind of time of mysteries, but before like full spooky season, and now I'm in full spooky season and I'm having a great time. But these just like brought me a little comfort before I went into spooky season. So thank you for watching, and if you want to leave a comment down below and just tell me your favorite book so far this year. I'd love to hear it, and I will see you next time.